Greetings fellow gamers, I'm the Soulsborne Seeker and today I'll be reviewing Marko Beyond Brave, an action-adventure Metroidvania game developed by Studio Mechka and released on the 17th of September 2024 for PC. Marko Beyond Brave transpires in the land of Zagora, a place inspired by Slavic myths and folklore. You take on the role of Marko, a young warrior whose life is upended when a terrifying creature called Entropy emerges from the bowels of the land and attacks his village. You and your fellow warriors do your best to stand your ground and drive the monster back, but unfortunately Entropy proves too powerful. In a last effort to strike the abomination down, Marko ends up defeated and drops down a crag to his death. Fortunately for him, a magical being breathes new life into his body, giving Marko a second chance at revenge. And thus, Marko embarks on a quest to save his land by taking down Entropy and those that have fallen victim to its corruption. The game's story is quite intriguing and is mainly conveyed through dialogue and certain ancient pillars you find, which contain pieces of lore that give you a glimpse on Zagora's history. I have to give props to the writers for those small snippets of text and poems, since they were written in beautifully lyrical fashion that gave the whole narrative a mythical feel. The opening cutscene was also quite striking and notable for its atmosphere and intensity, and set the tone for the adventure that was to come, especially while accompanied by the game's haunting music. But does Marko Beyond Brave manage to follow up this powerful beginning with an equally engaging gameplay experience? Let's find out. Starting with the setting, Zagora is a very interesting place to explore and features a diverse range of biomes to travel through, from the initial underground caverns to a magical forest all the way to ancient ruins of the world, just to name a few. That being said, I believe the game's visuals don't do it justice most of the time. Essentially, while the art and animation of Marko, his enemies and other NPCs is very well crafted, I found the backgrounds of most areas to be quite bland and uninspired when compared to them, lacking any sort of visual depth and movement that would make you feel like you are part of a living, breathing place, especially when juxtaposed with a much more vivid renditions of the characters. Staying on setting, the game's exploration of Zagora was very serviceable and included several secret areas you could find, which yielded some useful collectibles that helped you on your journey, and I say some because I didn't find meaning in all of them. On a basic level, the game makes available a total of 5 different collectibles to you, those being special runes, iron ore, coins, plants, and finally, magical soul fragments. Special runes can be equipped via the rune menu and provide offensive and defensive bonuses, such as allowing you to gain more courage while fighting, as well as increasing your sword's damage. Iron ore can be used to craft items at the village blacksmith, though I will admit that after he crafted a hilt for my sword to allow me to throw it in the form of a lance, he never bothered to provide me with any additional craftables, even though I had accumulated several pieces of ore after that first encounter. Coins are the game's currency and can be used to purchase new attack actions and some helpful items from 2 merchants you find in the village. Now, while the attack actions were useful, the helpful items I mentioned were way overpriced and the gathering of coins was a lengthy endeavor, so actually purchasing them would require a significant amount of grind, which I didn't find to my tastes. When it comes to the aforementioned plants and magical fragments, I wasn't able to find a use for them during my playthrough, though I will expand more upon this later on, so please bear with me because that part will be important. On a final note here, I will admit that I didn't find the map system of the game efficient. Marko Beyond Brave provides a completely revealed map of each section of the world to you, including parts of it you haven't visited yet, which is always a confusing situation. It also didn't allow me to zoom in or place any manual markers and lacked any sort of markers of its own, further limiting its usefulness. To end the exploration on a positive, I'll say that I liked the game's fast travel system, which had you use a goat to run around fast travel points you have unlocked, something I found quite original. Combat-wise, Marko Beyond Brave plays it safe, which I never consider a bad thing, though here we have certain issues. On a fundamental level, Marko is capable of both melee and ranged attacks when it comes to dealing with enemies. When it comes to melee, your trusty greatsword will make mincemeat of your foes, whose moveset can be upgraded by purchasing extra attack patterns from the village priest. Ranged attacks come in the form of the aforementioned lance that you craft at the blacksmith, which can be thrown at the cost of courage, a currency you restock by hitting your enemies and which can also be used to replenish your health. Now, when it comes to combat, there are several problems that need to be addressed. First and foremost, the hitboxes are quite inconsistent, both in terms of you hitting your foes as well as them hitting you, with certain attacks that you were sure would hit actually not doing so, and attacks that you were sure you had avoided actually landing. This on its own wouldn't be completely frustrating if it wasn't for the fact that Marko doesn't actually have any invincibility frames aside from those gained from your forward dash, which means that you can be hit multiple times in the span of a single second and die immediately before you had the chance to react. Furthermore, there is no actual animation for your healing process, and I frequently found myself being unsure whether I was healing or not until I saw the glow that results from actually being healed. This leads to the problem of not being sure if you have enough courage to heal at times, thus leading to death when you thought you were healing but actually were just standing there waiting to be taken down. Combat aside, the game also features certain platforming segments that you will need to overcome. Now, while platforming is something I truly enjoy, with intricate acrobatic segments always gaining high praise from me, I also acknowledge the fact that in order for said platforming segments to be fun, there is a certain finesse and efficiency the game's controls need to possess, and unfortunately, Marko doesn't possess either. While I did come across issues with Marko's jump being inconsistent in height regardless of how hard I pressed on the jump button, my main issue was the teleportation mechanic it incorporates. The lance you use in order to attack foes from afar can also be used to teleport to certain glowing orbs after you thrust it at them. The main problem here is once again inconsistency. For example, a lot of the times Marko would simply not teleport there even though I pressed the correct button, and others he would teleport but not gain enough altitude for me to jump to the next section, or gain too much altitude with the same results. I experimented a lot with that ability to try and figure out what I was doing wrong, and eventually ended up just mashing buttons and hoping for the best. This mechanic became especially problematic during a specific platforming gauntlet that had you move across multiple orbs like that, which quickly became an exercise in frustration. Simple platforming segments were serviceable, but the game did not possess the necessary polish and responsiveness to make more intricate challenges work. In terms of bosses, I'm saddened to say that the game's big bads were a mixed bag that leaned toward the negative. While there were a few villains that were entertaining to go up against, featuring fun attack patterns that required dexterity and good timing to overcome, most of them felt like endurance tests, with you dealing little damage while having to go through lengthy albeit limited attack patterns and pretty much doing the same move over and over again, which eventually led to stale matches that lasted longer than they should. Now, this is usually the part where I talk about the game's length and pricing, but unfortunately I can't tell you the game's length because I never got to finish it, though by no fault of my own. For starters, I came across a progress stopping bug with one of the early bosses, which would continue attacking me even after I had depleted its health bar, thus keeping me stuck there. The developer was quick to fix that and I was able to move on, only for me to reach another boss arena in which the boss refused to show up, once again trapping me in place. The developer fixed that as well, but the worst was yet to come. During my exploration, I ended up finding a fast travel point in an area that looked like I needed the double jump skill to progress through it, so I decided to fast travel somewhere else. I ended up choosing an option in the list of areas that I couldn't remember visiting, and after taking it, I was transported to what I considered to be a late game biome. The problem here was that I was lacking any abilities to move forward, so I decided to backtrack and explore a bit, which led me to the base of the biome, at which point I was stuck with no way of leaving. I even tried to crash through a breakable section of the floor with my ground slam, only to find that my ground slam did not work despite me having the necessary courage to perform it, thus locking me in that biome forever with no way to return to my fast travel point even though I really tried, and leaving me with restarting the game from zero as my only option if I wanted to give it another shot. Now all this ties to a multitude of other technical issues I experienced while playing Marko Beyond Brave. For example, when I teleported to that last biome, I could no longer see the map, but instead this blank white screen. There was also an area where I fell through the level and into oblivion, which forced a restart from my latest save point, and also lengthy biomes in which the enemies had turned invisible, forcing me to get hit in order to detect them and take them down. Additionally, a double boss I came across just stood in place after I lowered their health significantly and simply allowed me to defeat them without retaliating. One more instance of a bug was when I moved from one biome to another and then decided to turn back, only for the game to keep forcing me to return to that biome, at which point I also realized my map was no longer available. There was also an amusing situation where I came across a message saying I had reached the end of the demo even though I was playing the full game, which did give me pause for a moment before realizing I could just move on. These, along with several other smaller issues here and there, point toward a fundamentally unfinished and broken product, and the first game I review without having been able to complete it. In conclusion, my experience with Marko Beyond Brave was a deeply disappointing one. I loved the game's music and found its intro cutscene to be top-notch, but things sort of took a downturn from there. Its combat is serviceable but suffers from suspect hitboxes, platforming can be quite frustrating due to control inconsistency, bosses are for the most part a slog to get through, and the visuals could have done a better job at fleshing out the world. But I would have been able to deal with all of this if it wasn't for the aforementioned technical issues. There's a great game hiding beneath all of these problems, but as things stand, Marko Beyond Brave is a cautionary tale of wasted potential, a game that needed much more time in the oven along with a lot of game testing for quality before release, which makes it my biggest disappointment of 2024 and a title I cannot recommend to anyone in its current state. My final verdict on Marko Beyond Brave is 3.5 out of 10. What did you think about Marko Beyond Brave? Have you played it yet? Do you agree with the points I mentioned, or do you see things differently? Let me know in the comments below, and please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, Soulsborne Seeker out!